Thank you so much for joining me today, Kyle. I really appreciate you coming on our podcast so we can talk a little bit about Figure 8, one of our approved products, as well as White Buffalo Land Trust. To start off, if you can just give me an introduction of, yourself, how Figure 8 began, and, a little bit more about your mission and your background.
Absolutely. Happy to be here and appreciate you having us on as well. And so my name is Kyle Sullivan, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for White Buffalo Land Trust. And our food brand is Figure 8 Foods. I'll get into some of those details along the way. And I really personally got into the space in college and just found an appreciation for agriculture and learning the roots of where my food was coming from, and really got into the study of permaculture and different systems of caring for, encouraging the health of, and supporting the environment while growing and producing healthy and delicious food. And so that passion really met my passion for filmmaking and storytelling, and that's really what led me in the direction of where I'm at today, and been working with White Buffalo Land Trust for just about 3 years now on that work. And so to provide a little context for how we kind of got into the space, so White Buffalo Land Trust is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are based out of Santa Barbara County in California. And we're just celebrating our 5-year anniversary at this point. And so it's kind of been a journey from starting with a 12-acre farm that was growing avocados and had some very different production systems. And that kind of goal and mission expanded into acquiring a 1,000-acre ranch in Santa Barbara County called the Halama Canyon Ranch. And that ranch is really the hub of our operations, and it's this global hub where we're inviting people to come out, we're teaching courses, we're teaching workshops, we're engaging with people out there to spread awareness around regenerative agriculture, and to, it's a testing ground for us to find new approaches from the land stewardship practices all the way to how do we bring these products to market, and support these new avenues for ranchers and farmers to tap into as revenue generators. And so our work is really broken down into 4 main fields of focus, and the first one being land stewardship. We felt that to be an advocate for regenerative agriculture and to teach the things that we're teaching, we really wanted to have our hands in the soil. We wanted to be doing the work. We wanted to be learning through observation and direct engagement. And so out on the ranch currently, we have a handful of different ecological sites that are native to this region. And those include sprawling grasslands. We have hundreds of acres of grasslands, to oak woodlands, to riparian corridors, kind of the riverways and the arteries of the whole system. And then there was a 5-acre vineyard on site when we took over stewardship as well. And so that's a key component of our work. And also there's an orchard there for olive production. So several different types of ecological sites to engage with, also the coastal sage scrub environment. And so with all of our work, we're kind of looking to each of those systems, and we're saying, how can we engage in these systems through an agricultural management perspective to tend for the land, create more biodiversity, improve the soil health, improve kind of water cycle functioning, all these great ecosystem services that we're trying to encourage. And how do we, raise an animal, grow a crop, create something that we can bring to market out of that relationship. And so to support that, we need to be able to look at the land and learn from what we're doing, and learn what the outcomes of that work are. And so we have a monitoring and research team that's dedicated to just that, to observing biodiversity, observing soil health, observing water function through the landscape, and starting to collect that baseline data and more detailed data as well, in terms of what are the outcomes of our practices on the landscape, and how can we take those learnings and then incorporate them into our education and training programs that vary from a single-day workshop all the way to 10-day intensives, where people are on site and learning holistic management and these bigger picture kind of principle thinking of regenerative ag, of how do I approach my land base? What are my personal needs and my family's needs? And how do I create a life for myself and a way to engage with this property that encourages the health of our local community and encourages the health of the land itself and the animals that we raise and the food that we share. And so through all that learning, we also felt that it was really important to bring products to market to start to have this conversation directly with customers, because it takes both sides of the equation. Like the ranchers and the farmers can make a transition on their own land base, but if there's not a kind of willing and receptive market side of things that's ready to purchase those products, it's not going to sustain itself over time. And so we're really always looking on kind of both sides of the spectrum to help spread this work and help grow this work. And engage in that too is collaborating with many different partners to help to expand the work as well. So that is really where Figure Eight was born from. We created Figure Eight as a food brand that is underneath the umbrella of the nonprofit. So it's not separate. All of the revenue and all the proceeds that come in through that business directly support our work and our mission. And so it's, on that regard, it's very unique and nice to know that even beyond the impact that you're having on the land by supporting the farmers and ranchers that we source from, you're also supporting to further this work through engaging with our brand. And so Figure Eight is just that. It kind of, our ethos is like looking to the land and saying, what is an ecological need that we have observed on the landscape? What's an agricultural solution that we can implement to help support helping that, fixing that, encouraging a healthier system? And then we create a product, bring it to market, and help to educate people on that and support the farmers and ranchers that are producing that. And that Figure Eight started with one product that was a persimmon vinegar, and that really came about because persimmons were a crop that we were looking to in our region, because they're very drought tolerant. They don't need a whole lot in terms of food and resources, and so they're very climate appropriate for our environment, and they're more resilient as environments and climates shift. So versus we're looking at avocado orchards and legacy orchards like that were already in place that are requiring as much water in a week as the persimmon requires in a whole growing season. And so we took that and we kind of by happenstance ended up creating some vinegar after fermenting some wine with it, and tasted it. It was delicious, new flavor, super bright, and it was a way that we could make a shelf-stable, preserved product that could last for years off of this supply chain of the persimmons that were being grown and produced in our area. So that was kind of the start of it, and I think we'll get into our AGA-focused product as we go on too.
So that being said, your biltong, another product of yours that's the AGA approved. We know that's a hot ticket item. We had it on our table at Regenerate not too long ago. And although not everybody had heard of it or quite understood what biltong was upon walking up, they walked away very satisfied and really excited about this new product that they learned about at our table. So can you tell us a little bit more about, how do you describe biltong to people that are unfamiliar with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been the core of our work as we've introduced this product is communicating that. And I think that, the simplest way I could say it is it's just a more tender and flavor rich cousin to jerky. And so essentially what it is it's you're taking the beef, you're marinating it in vinegar and spices, and then you're air drying it without any heat, without added sugars, without preservatives. And it comes out to be this really tender little strips, almost like, a steak in a bag, to be honest. And they're really, well preserved. They have a longer shelf life, great flavors, and it's something that is, yeah, it's very unique, very delicious, very, I love the fact that it doesn't require so much processing. It's such a, natural and kind of age old process of creating that has its origins in South Africa.
So the persimmons had sort of a beautiful story behind it of how it was, native to your region, and you discovered this bright tasting vinegar. Is there a similar story for how the development of the biltong product was brought forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a funny segue there too is that the persimmon vinegar is an ingredient in the biltong. So we use that as the curing vinegar for the biltong itself. So we were able to tie those two together, which is really awesome. But with that one, it was so central to our work out at Halama Canyon Ranch of having these kind of pasture lands where we were, raising cattle ourselves and working in, to restore grasslands. That we felt like that was an area that we really needed to focus in terms of bringing a product. And through a lot of the different things that have been created in and around this organization, so much of the inspiration has come from our local community of supporters, and some of those ideas were presented along the way, and we had some supporters of ours that were adamant about helping us to create a few batches of those from home and do some sampling and tasting, and so that kind of spurred this journey into getting it produced and bringing it to market. And we also, looking at the products themselves too, the vinegar is interesting and unique in that it's something that you can use for so many different things in terms of, culinary applications. But it's very much a cooking product, an at-home product. So we were also kind of looking at what's something that people can grab, take with them, is a really nourishing meal on the go. And especially with travel or anything these days, it's easy to find yourself in places where you don't have access to quality food, and to have something that's light, grab and go, easy to take with you was another element that we looked at.
So obviously, you guys being an AGA approved product, that's a decision you guys made to put that label on your product and wear that proudly. Can you kind of explain what that means and why it's important for consumers to be looking for either an AGA certification or an AGA approval in their food choices?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that the more and more you dive into the story behind the regulations and the certifications and verifications that are currently on package, even if it's USDA organic is one that we're all familiar with. There's When you understand how things are produced for different production systems, there's very different needs and very different requirements. And I think that we've realized as time gone on that there's a lot that's happening beyond this, just the organic certification. And so we really wanted to find a way to bring that to the customer and to share with them of here's our third party verified and certified integrity behind the work that we're doing, and we find that this is really important, and we want to create that differentiation in the marketplace so we can start to educate people that this is even an option. So for some people, there's just not that direct connection to where their food is coming from, and so it happens on package in the store, having those conversations. And really the core foundation of American grass-fed is just that, having production within America, having animals on the grass itself, which is integral to our work of trying to restore the grasslands through regenerative, holistic management and the practices that we employ. And so this is just, one mark that is really showing that and exemplifying that in the marketplace for customers. And, it also is supporting kind of rural communities as well, robustness of communities and regional supply chains. I think that's more important than ever to find, where is our, food security within our region? How can we support fellow farmers, ranchers, families around us in producing the food?
when I'm looking at all of the different jerkies and biltongs on the shelf, what about Figure Eight's biltong makes that product really stand out? I mean, when we're thinking about the AGA approval, when we're thinking about your sourcing decisions, when we're thinking about simply what the proceeds from that sale are going to support, what makes it really different?
Yeah, so when looking at what makes our product so unique on the store shelf is really, it comes down to the sourcing. And there are a handful of different biltong manufacturers that are currently creating products, and they're available on the shelf. And there's many different jerkies and different meat snack products that exist in the marketplace. And really, I think we're really unique and rare in the sense that we are so focused on the impeccable sourcing of where our meat is coming from, and how it makes it to package. And really, the American grass-fed certification is core to that. That's one of the marks that we were adamant about putting on our package, and showing that we're sourcing from farmers in America that are supporting their rural communities, that are raising animals in a way that really is humane and great for them too. It's they're being able to be on pasture, be out on the land throughout their life cycle, and that kind of engagement with the grassland itself is so critical to holistic management and to having that positive impact on the land. And so we felt that it was really important to have the American Grass-Fed Association certification on there. We also really leaned into land to market, which is a verification that verifies a specific land base for the practices that are being done. And not necessarily the practices, but more of what are the outcomes of integrating a different way of management on that land. And so that we're monitoring every year for short-term research, and every 5 years for long-term, just to look at how is the health of that land base trending over time towards that positive direction of exemplifying the optimal state of what that land base could be. And so through these
you're actually doing that testing on every one of the farms you're sourcing from.
We are, yeah.
Wow. And what have you found?
Yeah, so it's different for every land base, and so that that program also is very regionally based. And so there's kind of one property within a region that's kind of the best example of what that ecological system can look like. And then every year, as you collect those data points, you're kind of amassing this score of, it basically is this whole system that creates a scorecard at the end of the day that's looking to all those different elements of biodiversity of species in the field, the density of grass species in a certain area, the just overall, canopy density, all these different pieces, and soil health as well. And then it's comparing you against that baseline of what the best example for that region is. And really, I feel like there's so much potential in all of the regions around the country that's even beyond what we're currently seeing and experiencing, or that we've experienced in our life. I mean, there's stories that were written as people first traveled west in America, and coming across some of this land that was cared for and tended by the indigenous people in California, for example, and they were on horseback and coming across grasses that were chest height and that were growing year-round in our region. And now we have a very annually dominated grassland environment that is, based on the way that we've managed and based on the impact we've had, it's trended in that direction. But those other stories are saying, here's what's possible on this land base if we, trend in the other direction. And so these are just ways to, the short-term monitoring is giving us kind of these little insights along the way to reflect on what we're doing. And then every 5 years, we're kind of getting the result of what has been happening, because it's a slow process.
Being an AGA-approved product, is there something that you would recommend to other folks that are in this space looking for a way to make their product stand out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as we are continuing to find different ways to communicate this to customers in the marketplace, it's really important to have third-party certification and kind of verification of the practices that are being employed on the land itself and the impact of those practices on the health of the land. And to us, AGA was a great representation of that kind of local and regional sourcing. Living an entire lifespan on the grass itself is very important, I think, for the animal and also for the practices that we're doing to help to restore the ecosystem through our management. And by having that mark on your package in the stores as well, it's a great way to communicate with the customer quickly and efficiently to kind of bring that authenticity to the sourcing and where that product is coming from, which I think is more and more important as this regenerative space continues to grow. And there's we've seen this in the past where even things like organic have the standards may not mean as much as time goes on based on how they were put into practice. And so I think it's more important than ever to kind of have these things that go above and beyond the organic certification, and really drive home the difference and start to educate people on that difference.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That means the world to us. We hope to be somewhere where consumers can come and see something that they've seen in the store, look us up, come see on our website what we represent and kind of what that's all about and what they're getting when they purchase that product with that logo on it. So for anybody that's interested in looking at an AGA product approval, please check out our website at americangrassfed.org. Send us an email. We're happy to talk to you about the possibilities of a product approval. If you're a producer out there looking to get AGA certified, also come to our website. You can join us as a member and get started on that process today. Kyle, tell me, is there anything that you'd like to mention about Figure 8 that maybe we haven't hit on today, or just something that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think that really just want to encourage people to be curious and look into the details of where products are coming from, and start to educate yourself on what the potential of that could look like. Because the collective impact that we can have, like imagine if all the food that we consumed in our life and the drink that we shared with friends and the gifts that we give are all coming from a place that is supporting the ecological health of the ecosystem at large that we all live in. And I think that work is not only important for now and for our health and for our family's health, it's also what does that impact generations down the line when we create that as kind of the standard. So really, be curious, dive into the details, and on that note, definitely check us out at whitebuffalolandtrust.org or at figure8foods.com. Those are kind of the hubs of where we're sharing information online. And if you're in the area too, come on out. We'd love to have you for a farm tour or a workshop and get engaged with this work.
So you heard it. Thank you so much, Kyle. You heard it. Go check them out at figure8foods.com. Learn some more about their biltong and all the other wonderful things that they have to offer. We really appreciate your time today, and definitely appreciate you doing one of the most important jobs in the world, and that's feeding the world with foods that are benefiting our planet, benefiting our environment, benefiting our consumers, benefiting the animals, and can't thank you enough.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And the same is true for you guys. It takes all of us coming together to make this movement move. And so we appreciate all the work that you guys are doing too.